I was sort of in a similar situation more than a year ago, when I really wasn't sure if I was going to have what it took to start my business, if this was the right time, if I should hold off, if I should just wait till I have more experience. And what I started doing was every day writing out my goals, but in present tense. So at the time when I started doing this, I would write out, I am my own boss, or I am an author, or I'm a content creator. And I just did this consistently every day. And you can't just write it out and expect things to change. But I was taking small actions that were aligned with these new identities. And I think if you want to see a change, it's not just about doing, it's 100% about doing, but it's also about claiming this new identity that you want to take on.
Alex Carmeli is a leadership consultant, author, and the founder of the We Build Killer Teams community. Alex is on a mission to empower and inspire 50,000 leaders to build purpose-driven teams that drive social impact and income. Through her private coaching and consulting, workshops, and speaking engagements, Alex has helped hundreds of leaders, mentors, and coaches find their authentic leadership voice, build a thriving team, and position themselves as the go-to leader in their niche. Alex and I met in a group coaching program, and I just knew I needed to have Alex as a guest on my podcast. Let's get to the interview. We're live. Okay. So for people in the Mindset for Personal Transformation Challenge, you're getting the benefit of hearing another Onward podcast interview. Alex, are you saying something? I don't know if I can hear you.
No, I was letting you intro.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fine. So I've got Alex Carmeli here, and Alex is somebody that I met through a group coaching program that I'm in. It's called We Build Tribes, and Alex is building her own tribe. So tell us about yourself, Alex, and your tribe that you're building.
Well, thank you so much for having me here, especially in your awesome challenge group. Hello, all the challenge participants, if you're watching.
Yeah.
So I'm building a community called We Build Killer Teams. And essentially, I'm on a mission to empower and inspire 50,000 leaders to build incredible teams, whether that's teams of employees or teams of clients that really make a bigger impact in the world and also generate an awesome income to fuel that social mission. So that's what I get up for every day, and I'm excited about.
Why did you decide to do that, Alex? And how did you come up with 50,000? I've got 10, so you're more ambitious than me.
So to be totally transparent, when I first started the community, I actually chose 500 because I was like, I'm probably not going to have anyone who's going to want to join this. And like, who's really going to even care? And then our mutual mentor, Blair, at the time was like, only 500 people. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, so 5,000? And he was like, I think 50,000. And I was like, okay. So I was like, all right, I'm really going to push myself out of my comfort zone. And we just hit our 8th month mark 2 days ago, and we're almost at 1,400 members.
Wow.
I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. And I'm in your group. I really enjoy following you. You've done a couple of challenges, and you've got a group coaching. And I've really enjoyed watching you come out of your shell and you're doing everything that Mark, and Blair, our coaches, recommend, and you're taking action, and that pushes other people in the group to take action. That's one of the things I like about group coaching. You see other people do it, and you're like, oh, I can do it. And we all share with each other and help each other out.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm sure the people in this challenge feel the same, where, you know, when you see others taking action, it's super contagious and inspiring, that like, it just has this great ripple effect.
Yeah. And you see someone else's idea and you're like, oh, I can do that too. Well, what do you say to people? Have you run into this in your challenges where people feel like they get behind and the homework's too much and they can't keep up? And what do you say to people when that happens in the challenge?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is that's a mindset kind of issue. So for me, the first step is changing your language. So it's really easy to say, I'm behind. And when you do that, what ends up happening is you have overwhelm, you feel panicked, your body has this like physiological response where you start to have physical symptoms as well of this panic. And so instead, what I usually advise my clients and my challenge participants to do is Instead, say I'm right where I need to be. So
Mhm.
I'm not behind. I'm right where I need to be. It's okay that I'm where I am right now. And then do what you can to look at the situation objectively. So realistically, where do you have 30 minutes of time today to carve out to do this? And maybe you don't finish everything, but the biggest goal of this is to master your mindset and continue to take action more than it is to finish the full 7 days, at least for my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because if you keep telling yourself, I am behind, I am behind, I am behind, your subconscious is going to say, okay, we're behind. Let's just stay
Right.
behind.
Right. And then
Right.
it's like state of panic you're in, and it's really hard to get out of that.
Yeah. So that's what I do the same. I say, you're right where you're supposed to be. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. And we're all overachievers, right? So we just like to, well, it's 7 days and I got to finish within the 7 days. And if I
Yeah.
don't, I'm not good enough. No, you're right where you,
100%.
you should be.
Definitely.
So how did you get into coaching, Alex? And how did you get into what you're doing now for a living?
Yeah. So I won't bore you with like a super long story, but I started coaching 7 years ago. I started in the health and fitness industry where I was a personal trainer slash health coach where I was helping people lose weight and rehab from injuries as well. So this kind of started because I used to be super overweight. I think I was like 200 plus pounds at like 5'3", which I was definitely not all muscle at the time. So wasn't cute. So essentially, like I had this incredible experience where I learned from a coach and I transformed working with this person, lost a lot of weight, built so much confidence, built strength. And when I was looking for a job when I was in college, all I could think about was helping people transform with their health, helping people get stronger and our capacity to really develop as human beings. So I ended up not going the traditional route despite my Jewish parents' horror. And I ended up becoming a personal trainer where at the time when I first started, I was making no money.
Did you go to college? Did you finish
I did.
college?
I
Okay.
did went to Northeastern and I got my degree in psych and linguistics.
Okay.
But I think they wanted me to go a more traditional route where, I got a corporate job and I had traditional benefits and all of that. And I was like, nope, I'm going to build my coaching business. And eventually what happened was I built up very quickly. And then I started helping other coaches build their coaching businesses. And then I started to take on a director role at my company where I was overseeing multiple different gym facilities and helping them revamp their programs. So I was doing a ton of mentoring, leading, and coaching of managers, of coaches, of all different types of people. And the stuff I was doing, I just was so passionate about, and I was getting such good results that I was like, this shouldn't just be in fitness. Like, I want to spread all this incredible stuff into other industries. And that's the reason I'm here. And I've, opened my own business and I've been doing this for the last almost a year now.
Year. So you started did you join Mark Bounus's coaching group like with me in April?
Yeah. So I started my business in January and I joined his group in April.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And how do you coach people that are older than you? Like, how do you lead people that are older than you? I know when my daughter took a job once and she was young, like 21, and she was a supervisor and she was supervising people that were older than her. And that was a real challenge. I'm just wondering how you do it.
Yeah, it's a good question because obviously I'm young and for almost all my clients are significantly older than me. And I think the thing is I don't try to pretend that I know more than I do. So I don't pretend like I know everything. I don't pretend to be miles ahead of where I actually am. I think for someone to be a good coach, you don't need to be 20 years ahead. You just need to know where's point A. And then you need to be maybe at like point C or D, a few steps ahead, know how to look behind you and see, all right, who's there and how do I take those people with me?
Yeah.
So I don't think you need to be miles ahead. I think you need to be a few steps ahead, be really, really open to learning and be able to take those people on the journey with you as well.
And be open to learning from your clients too, right?
100%.
Yeah. So you've got some big dreams. Do you want to share what they are?
Oh man, sure. What are my big dreams? Well, that's a big question. Now that this is the hardest question, I think, because I do have a lot of big dreams. I think one of the biggest ones is in the leadership industry. I think eventually I'd like to have my own certification course that people take. So maybe when they're in either a new management role or they're new to coaching and they want to be more of a leader in their business, this would be the certification that is the go-to. There's a lot of ones that are current now, like there's John Maxwell and there's like the Simon Sinek's, but I think I have a bit of a different take, although a lot of it's similar. So I'd love to be able to like go in and disrupt that space or add to that space. That's one of my
what gives you the courage to have that dream?
I think probably that I think about the people that I look up to, like we're talking about Mark. I'll use Mark as an example where I really believe that like the only thing that separates people who have extreme levels of success and people who are just starting out is that they've continued to take action and have a good intent.
Yeah.
So like, I'm just going to keep taking action and whatever happens, happens. But from my experience, like when I have continued to take action, like that in itself separates me from so many people because most people don't continue to take action.
Take action and be detached. Mark says, which is hard, be detached from the outcome. Like, right, you're looking for coaching clients, you're going to take certain action.
Yeah.
If the clients don't come, don't take that personally, like you did something wrong.
Right. I think it's easy to say when something goes wrong, like have all the excuses and blame other people, or when someone has success to say that they had more money or they had more time or they had more experience. But realistically, everyone started from the same position for the most part, had maybe not the same adversity, but some kind of adversity. So the easy thing is to tell yourself this person had an advantage versus you just continuing to take action, not let any of that noise disrupt your action taking.
Do you have like one of my podcast clients, guests recommended having like a personal board of directors? I know you're in Mark's coaching program.
Yeah.
Besides that, what other support do you have for, I'm sure you do sometimes feel frustrated or feel like, I just can't keep going or, I'm not good enough. I know you do feel that. The difference is you keep going. So what do you have? What support systems do you have in place to keep you going?
Yeah. So like you said, group coaching. So like, I know there's always people like you that I could turn to, like you'll never turn me away. I have 3 accountability partners, or I guess you could call those board of directors. So people that are in different industries than myself, that are entrepreneurs that I go to and that I can get their input. I can get their advice. I can candidly tell them like, oh my God, everything is sucking here. I don't know if I should keep going. So I have all of those people that I have in my life, but I am also very, very probably overly cautious about who I spend my time with. Like time for me is the only thing you obviously you don't get back. Like you can't make more of that. And although there are, to be candid, like there are people in my life who I love very much, but we all have people in our lives who sometimes are a little bit toxic or are difficult to be around. And when you're trying to build something incredible or you're just trying to live a happier life, like you do have to be really careful. And that means saying no. And so like there were times even where this year was hard for me because I have family members who have like mental illness that have struggled, and I've really tried to be there for them. And the thing is, like when you have people who are struggling with that, it ends up affecting you deeply.
Yeah.
And from a distance, you can only help people so much. So it's been a really hard balance between trying to help and be there for those people who are really negatively affecting you, but also taking care of you and not sacrificing all of your goals. So that's been definitely a huge challenge for me this year as well.
Boundary setting.
Yeah, 100%.
So when you say no or back off a little bit, do you give an explanation or do you?
Yeah, I think it's not right away. It's like after many, many times of trying to be on the same page. But for example, like there's a friend who I have who, isn't super solution oriented, who likes to complain and complain and complain. And when I hear those complaining thoughts, even if I don't mean to pick them up, I'm going to. And that means it's going to affect my work. It's going to affect how I show up every day. And even though I love this person, like I can't be around you if you're going to behave like that.
Right.
So I try to make them aware of it in like the kindest way. But if it's something that doesn't change, then it's just less energy being spent on that relationship.
Yep. So you're so young and you have such awesome advice. I mean, you're the age of my kids and I'm so old, I guess. No, but you're not quite 30. And you wrote a book. And your book is so good. I mean, when I read your book and I see some of your work, it's like, wow, this person, you're coming across to me as somebody who has had a lifetime of experience in leadership and coaching.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I really appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you. I think this is something that actually, when I wrote the first book, I worked with my book coach, Azul. He was amazing. And that was something we talked about with, why have you had so much success so young? Like, why are you so much more mature at such a young age? And I did a lot of reflection on it. We did a lot of work on it. It's partially in the book, some of the stories as to why, but I don't think about my coaching journey as only 7 years. Like, in reality, and not to go too deep, but I had a very hard childhood in a lot of ways, where from a really young age, I always had to be the adult. I always had to be the person that showed up. I always had to be the person who coached. I always had to be the person who learned how to survive from a really young age. And so even when I say I've been coaching for 7 years, that doesn't feel totally true, because it's been much longer than that I've always had to be the adult for everyone else.
Wow, that is insightful. That explains a lot.
It was a hard realization, but I think fills in a lot of gaps.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us about your 2 books.
Yes.
I've only read the first one, but.
Yeah. So the second one, Stand in Fear, is coming out, oh my gosh, hopefully 2021. And that one is all about basically how to be thinking about fears and the biggest lies we tell ourselves when we're afraid. And so my goal for that book is to take you from knowing that you're afraid to starting to understand what the fears are and starting to leave your comfort zone and know why you held back from doing it for so long. So that's the second book that's coming out.
Knowing that you're afraid, that's key, because I think sometimes people might not realize they're afraid. They think it's another reason, like they don't have enough money to invest in themselves, or they don't have enough time. But really the reason is they're afraid.
Yeah. 100%. And I think knowing exactly what you are afraid of on a really, really deep level, not just I'm afraid people will criticize me, but why? What will happen if people criticize you? What will happen if people don't buy your product? What will happen if you write a book and no one reads it? Really, what's the reality and what's at stake? Which sounds simple, but I think it's harder to get to that why than I think it seems sometimes.
Yep. So Stand in Fear is going to be coming out in 2021. And then your first book.
Yes, the first book, Teach Your Ducklings to Fly. So that one is all about how to start coaching beginners, essentially. So if you're a leader or a mentor or a coach who is just getting into the field of, again, leading or coaching, and you have someone who's brand new that you want to start developing and molding, I talk all about how to do that, how to leverage your story and your journey, what kinds of things to be thinking about when you are mentoring someone else.
Yeah, there's a lot of good advice in that book.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So what kinds of people do you coach? People that are leading teams. So it could be other coaches. It could be people who have a team that they lead at work.
Yeah. So I like to think about teams as obviously communities of people.
Okay.
But so there's teams in the obvious sense where maybe you're in more of a corporate setting or you own your own business and you have a team, which is the traditional sense. So I have a demographic of people that I'm working with on that front. And then the larger demographic I'm actually working with are people who are building coaching businesses. And instead of thinking about their coaching businesses as individual kind of transactional, I think about them as teams. So building a community of people around your work, essentially, is what I'm teaching them. And honestly, I think that for so many businesses, it's easy to start a business. It's easy to register a business. It's easy to claim a title. It's totally different to have the leadership skills and know how to show up as a leader in your business and be the person that people look up to for wisdom, guidance, professional and personal development. That's the skill set that allows you to build a community, not just registering your business with the state.
Yeah. That's a good point. So you talk a lot about mindset. Why is adopting the mindset of a top performing leader so crucial?
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit already with your with some of your the questions at the beginning, but I think it's when you're going through your life, there's always adversity.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be setbacks, like maybe you don't finish all the days of the challenge, or you have a family issue that comes up. There's going to be that stuff happening. And when you have this mindset of a top performing leader, it's basically acknowledging that adversity is normal. Like it sucks, but it's normal. And what's funny? Like we wouldn't even know what adversity is if we didn't have highs. So basically what I'm saying is our brains work in kind of binary ways. So we wouldn't understand something that's incredible and amazing if we didn't understand something that's really low.
Right. And you can let those life challenges stop you from accomplishing your goals. You can always say, I'm too busy now. I want to write a book. I'm too busy now. I want to, be a coach. I want to switch my careers, but now's not the right time. Mm-hmm. There's never really going to be a perfect time where everything aligns. You just have to figure out how to just do it. Right. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like there will never be the perfect time. And I think when you can acknowledge, like, it's normal to have these setbacks, like it's going to happen and you can embrace them, then you can start to see things more objectively. You can see things from a 30,000 foot view instead of kind of being in the weeds, overwhelmed, panicked, like not sure what you're going to do next. And that's sort of key. When we've been talking about continuous action is it's okay when things suck, like it's normal, but like acknowledge it and then move forward from it.
How do you coach people to find their authentic leadership voice? I mean, you can go and read all these different leadership books and they're helpful, but in the end, you've got to be your authentic self, because if you're not, people will catch on to that. How do you teach people to find their voice?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the first exercises I do with my group coaching program. So in my program, there's 3 phases: clarity, collaboration, community. And the first phase is all about clarity because, like you're saying, understanding your authentic leadership voice keeps you anchored in so many ways. So when we're trying to figure it out, what we actually do is a total deep dive into your journey and your story. Mm-hmm. And so that means where we actually go through and we do an exercise where we write out all the most meaningful memories from birth to now that you think have contributed to your leadership journey. And we end up going through and reflecting on those and picking out the trends that you see. So maybe there's a trend of like resilience, or there's a trend of, I don't know, something else. But for me, I told you my story about having to always be the adult. That's how I figured that out, by going through all of those memories and figuring out I'm not just a good coach because I've spent a couple years coaching. It's because here are all of the things in addition that have contributed to this that aren't like really socially acceptable to talk about.
It's knowing yourself. Yeah.
So it's really a powerful exercise.
Yeah, that is a good exercise. How do you stay grounded? How do you do yoga? Do you meditate? Any tips you have there?
Yeah, I'm a big meat. I said I'm a big meathead, so I love going to the gym and lifting weights. So I'm definitely big on exercise. That's where I think a lot of my ideas come when I'm like not even looking for them, and I'll be like doing a bent over row, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should do this in my coaching program. Yeah. And I do some journaling, but I think the biggest thing is taking time for myself, which I'm terrible at, where I don't take time off. And I started my business in January, where I went full time with it. And the first time I really honestly took a day off was in October.
I know, I've watched you work. It's challenging. And I do the same. It's like, just get over this step, get over this step, get over this step. But it is important to make that time for yourself.
It's probably the thing I need to work on the most is telling myself no, and telling myself like, you need to stop, you need to slow down. Because I have burnt out in the past and I have really, really hurt myself in that way. So hugely important.
So what happened when you took that day off? What did you do and how did it change you? What did you learn from it?
Honestly, I just watched TV.
Which is okay.
I know. So I think I can't remember what I watched, but I ordered takeout, I watched TV, and I told my boyfriend, let me just sit here for 24 hours and decompress. And then the next day, I had 2 days off. The next day, I cleaned my apartment and I took care of other things. But sometimes you just need that day to like sit in front of the TV and just do nothing.
I know. The other day, I watched my neighbor's dog too. So the other day, both the dogs were asleep on the couch, and I'm like, I'm going to take a nap. I took a nap with them, and I just felt so much better. Just that downtime where you got to rest your brain.
Yeah.
You're using your brain so much. The people that I coach are kind of people like me that have been face down, taking care of kids, taking care of everybody else. And then they look up and it's like, oh, I'm an empty nester now. And where I'm getting ready to be an empty nester. And I want to figure out my dreams. And I don't even know who I am. What advice do you have for people like that to figure out who they really are and what they want to do next?
Yeah. So for me, because I know I'm not in that same situation, but I was sort of in a similar situation more than a year ago, when I really wasn't sure if I was going to have what it took to start my business, if this was the right time, if I should hold off, if I should just wait till I have more experience. And what I started doing was every day writing out my goals, but in present tense. So at the time when I started doing this, I would write out, I am my own boss, or I am an author, or I'm a content creator. And I just did this consistently every day. And you can't just write it out and expect things to change. But I was taking small actions that were aligned with these new identities. And I think if you want to see a change, it's not just about doing, it's 100% about doing, but it's also about claiming this new identity that you want to take on. And so when I started claiming it, taking the right action, 3 months later, I wasn't writing down, I am my own boss. I was writing down, I am the CEO of $1 million company. Like, I think that was the next thing I wrote down. Obviously, I'm not there yet.
No, but you will be. I know you will be.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I think writing that stuff out was helpful, and like training your brain to like take on that identity and pair it with the right actions.
Right.
Is huge.
The I am statements are huge. Not I am going, not like in the future I will be this, or I am going to do this. That's an action thing, but I am. Like one of mine is I am confidence. And I say that a lot when I go for a walk, and it helps me stay confident in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful. It's like training your subconscious. And once you believe it, then you're on a different like energy frequency level, and the universe starts to deliver.
Yeah. It's like that present tense when you're like talking as if it's happening right now. Like, I don't know if your actions definitely shift, but the way you start speaking shifts, which has a ripple effect on like how other people start thinking about you and start treating you, how you start experiencing the world around you and seeing opportunities. So I think it can be really powerful. It was for me.
Yeah, no. And one of my coaches says that too, just start to be that person now, instead of saying, I'm going to get there, you be that person now. I think that's so important.
Yeah, so important. Love that.
So did I cover what we said we were going to cover? Any other tips that you want to bring up? Questions? Sometimes I ask you any questions that you think that I should have asked you that I didn't.
I don't think so. I think you covered everything. I appreciate you having me here, and it's exciting to get to do this in your group as well.
Thank you for listening today. I put in the show notes links to Alex's books, as well as how to reach her if you want to learn more about what Alex has to offer. I'm offering the Onward Accelerator group coaching program. This program is for you if you want to live with intention, if you want to tame your inner critic, to increase your self-awareness and become a more effective leader. If you're looking to trade overwhelm for an inner calm, and you want to find more balance and purpose in your life, I'd love to have you join this Onward Accelerator group coaching program. If you want to learn more about the program, feel free to message me, to send me on Facebook, to send me an email, to message me on LinkedIn. You can also go to my website, emilyharmon.com, and schedule a meeting to talk with me about it. I put a link to the Onward Accelerator group coaching program in the show notes as well. It's my landing page on that program, and you can learn more about it from there. Since I retired in May of 2019, I've invested in several group coaching programs, and I just love them. Each one offers an ability to learn from other people, to learn more about myself. And that's what, in my mind, life's all about, just figuring ourselves out. And I love doing it in a group setting, and I hope that you will too. Come on over and join the Onward Accelerator group coaching program. I'd like to take a minute just to read a couple of reviews that came in on the Onward podcast, and they just brightened my day. Lenny says, "We all want hope to achieve our authenticity, and Emily helps us with just that. The guests she has on her podcast bring so much awareness and take us on a path to personal growth. Every podcast leaves me mentally nourished. Some will bring tears, but then it leaves you feeling a type of joy that can only be felt when ready to deal with adversity and be our most authentic selves. Thank you for moving us onward and forward." And then Jenny writes, "Emily Harmon's podcast persistently challenges our thinking, sharing real stories of how people have overcome devastating obstacles and what they learned as a result. I listened today to Joy Crow's story of losing 2 sons to overdoses. She describes what she went through and explains how she had to stop carrying the burden of guilt and shame, sharing her story to help other families." Thank you for those reviews, and thank you to all of the guests who have shared their story, who've been vulnerable and shared their story in an aim to help others realize that they are not alone. Have a great week, everybody.